in Game 2. I suspect that an early Thanatos pick might not be the call this time for CAZ. It worked out great in the early game, but that 40% execute threshold in the late game, just no one is there for much more than a second to half a second. And if you don't execute perfectly, then Thanatos feels pretty useless in that scenario.
Surprisingly enough, the TMNT are actually going to be the ones to ban away that Thanatos. So even though it wasn't necessarily a threat for them, I'd imagine that they're almost expecting CAZ to try and take away all that sustain and healer composition that TMNT were running. And that, if anything, and right away you can see exactly what they were going for. That Zeus pick is huge.
CAZ really focusing out Ozrek here for TMNT and leaves open the Zeus. Though in their defense, 50-meter fly never really had any, did not do an excellent job of farming. I mean, yes, he's the Aphrodite. He's not going to be able to farm as well as someone like Isis, but was significantly behind basically the entire game. Going to have to do a better job of that on Zeus, who's really drafted for that early game pressure that he provides you, as well as, of course, the insane AoE damage that he provides. Geb and Susano, the selections for CAZ, going a little bit of a different way, a little bit more mid to late game oriented already.
But at the same time, falling behind on an Aphrodite isn't really the worst case scenario. Considering that you're facing off against an Isis, you expect the Isis to snowball ahead of you and to secure a lot more farm than you early on. So I could imagine that the Zeus pick is going to be infinitely more aggressive inside that mid lane, and Alexim's not going to have as easy of a time securing more farm than him.
Absolutely, along with the Thor and the Kabrak, and that's a lot of early game aggression that you're going to see out of TMNT for Lyfe in that 3v3 core, though it could be Kabrakan solo, could be Kabrakan support. We'll have to wait and see exactly where TMNT wants to throw that Guardian who's been very, very prevalent early on here in Season 4. Hercules, Sylvanas, the bans for CAZ, and Sun Wukong and Medusa banned away by TMNT for Lyfe. Rom going to be the selection here for Geron, who was just kind of there in that game. But that's kind of what Neath is, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, what more is there for Geron to do at that stage of the game?
Yeah.
He did his job early on. He safely farmed. He popped his ultimate whenever his team was looking for those picks or engagements. But as a Neath into that kind of composition, that's just, you're not the shredding character in that situation.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of room for you to play around with there. But this round pick is interesting, especially since the Kabrakan is on the table. Kabrakan here, by the way, an excellent pick for TMNT, in my opinion, considering it's great against Poseidon. It has a ton of lockdown potential for Susanoo and Geb. And then on top of that, when you have a Rom picking into you, if I'm Kabrakan, I'm just like, hey, this
feels good, man. I got a lot of people.
I am ready for this, so.
Well, we'll have to see how TMNT for Lyfe are going to be able to pilot that Kabrak. It looks to be in the support role as Bologna locked in for that solo lane warrior, most likely for Predators, and it is going to be Mr. Turtle on this Kabrakan. 50-meter fly on the Zeus like we expected. And Welsh Beast on the Onher, I really like this selection for him. And you were talking about how during relegations he proved to be one of the more aggressive hunters, particularly on this Onher. I think that we could really see him try and push an advantage in this duo lane early on.
Oh, he 100% wants the advantageous duo lane, especially since Onher is notorious for that 1v1 boxing potential early on. And it's incredibly difficult, honestly, for a Rom to deal with him in these early stages. And especially with Welsh Beast's playstyle, I expect a lot of boxing, a lot of boxing to be coming out into that duo lane.
Especially with Geron going for this short bow start. Don't see a whole lot of that usually as Predators takes a lot of damage on this right-hand side, though it looks like TMNT for Lyfe did get the push advantage, even up against the Chalk for Minos here. Talk to me about the short bow start. We usually see Boots 1 this selection along with Death's Toll if it's not going to be the Devourer's Gauntlets. Why do we see this attack speed option?
That's a safe start for Rom. It's not the most conventional start in the world, especially facing off against a more aggressive hunter such as Onher, but his lane clear is, since he's being left alone, is going to be better than the Onher early on. He's got the Astral Arrows, and then when you combine the fact that he already has attack speed steroid built into his kit, rushing an early Ickfall really isn't the worst option in the world. And in fact, it could actually catch Welsh Beast off guard should he opt to finish that into the Ickfall, and especially since Welsh Beast is opting for the Transcendence route.
Well, you see on the right-hand side, TMNT showing CAZ what they should have done in Game 1, invading the enemy buffs, able to get both the blue and the speed Mino's trying to steal away the enemy speed sneakily, but the rest of TMNT are here and they're able to secure it, and Minos is going to fall here. This is the ultimate feels bad man moment. Not only do you die, but they get the speed buff as well. I mean, that's brutal.
The unfortunate circumstances of trying to solo invade a speed buff as Chalk and not really being aware of where the enemy team was on the map at that point in time. I don't think that he realized that mid lane had already safely cleared and we're able to just rotate in and be like, hey buddy, what are you doing?
The drafts from TMNT for Lyfe have been really, really excellent. That's been the thing early on here in their first week of SCL play that I've really looked at is their drafting phase. We saw game 1 and how they play it as well, like giving up gold furies that most teams would not give up, understanding what they can get away with their composition, and right now playing aggressive on this right-hand side. Usually when you see Chalk, you say, all right, well, they can have that right-hand side. I'm not really worried about it, at least their own buffs. But TMNT for Lyfe having none of that. Predators and Ozric really taking it to the jungle solo of CAZ Esports early on.
The recognition and awareness that TMNT have had with their drafts as far as their strengths and weaknesses are concerned, that is so crucial as when it comes to developing these sort of team synergy environments and the way that they're able to utilize every single part of their God's kits together. It's so much cohesion and just difficulty for CAZ to really try and deal with.
Overpowered USB is only level 3. As I say that, he hits level 4, though still doesn't have that ultimate. In fact, going to throw out the 3 there, and he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Immediately, TMNT make him pay. A little bit too aggressive there for the jungler. He may be overpowered, but Zeus doesn't really care about that. 50-meter fly able to pick up his second kill early on, both going to the mid lane Zeus. I was talking about how that's a feels bad man moment for Minos. Getting 2 kills early on as Zeus, that's a feels amazing man moment.
That's also probably the last character that CAZ want to see securing such an early lead. He's got the first blood gold in hand that he was able to pick up early on because of the Chalk misfortunes. And then on top of that, the fact that Overpowered wasn't level 5 in that situation and was it didn't seem like he was out of position. He was right above his tower line, but when you're up against a Cabrakan, that is out of position because that spacing is really all that TMNT are going to need in these team fights to just pick off the easy kill.
Ozric going up, trying to steal away the blue buff once more, though he does see 4 members here. Changes his focus, possibly looking for the jungler, and that's who exactly he'll find. Overpowered, uses his beads, and gets the Geb shield from Waldrum. So CAZ are able to manage to secure their blue buff and their speed buff. That's exactly what you want to see when you lose your first ones. You got to be on time for the first respawn. And CAZ does a good job of making sure those go their way. It's important to stem the bleeding in this sort of a scenario. If TMNT were able to secure both of those buffs once more, would have been very difficult for CAZ to fight anytime soon. But because of the good timing of the team and good teamwork, they're able to find those buffs and maybe look to start fighting into the lead soon enough.
In that duo lane, what's interesting to see as well is Welsh Beast opting to look for that boots rush as opposed to just finishing off the Transcendence, which I think is really important and largely due to the fact that Drone already has the Iqbal line. He opted to finish that off into the early boxing item, and now he's going to be looking for his boots next, but it's going to be difficult for Welsh Beast to play as aggressively with that on her as he probably would have ideally wanted to. And now with that dual lane pressure not really going the way of TMNT, I think that really helps CAZ as far as securing these buffs, because when you have a Geb on your side, Geb is fantastic. He is the ultimate babysitter when it comes to the shield and the cleanses, but at the same time, he's got that early game issue, and Mr. Turtle on a Cabrakan just has so much aggression and pressure.
He's looking for him right now. There's the wall, and the wall from Thor as well, and Mr. Turtle trembles the god of the earth back to where he came from. First death there for the support player, but I mean, you started talking about it, Taco, and TMNT immediately do exactly what you said. It's difficult for Gebs to avoid those early deaths. Looking for him with the Cabrakan. TMNT just still playing so aggressive with this composition.
I just love how they put that Cabrakan into the support role because it gives Mr. Turtle so much freedom. Dunk
onto Overpowered. There's the damage, the stun as well, and 50-meter fly. Able to pick him up with that Aegis Assault, 4-0. TMNT blanking CAZ Esports early on here. Not a huge lead for them, 1,500 gold, but it's 6.5 minutes. I don't really want to be down 1,500 gold.
This Bracken support has been all over the place. 1-0-3. He has literally been a part of every single kill so far on the side of TMNT. And the fact is, you just can't really deal with a Bracken running straight at you. He has so much damage early on. He's tanky enough. And the setup potential that he has, combined with the Zeus and the Thor, that is scary.
Absolutely. And 50-meter Fly's done a great job with his positioning, making sure he's not in a bad spot whenever Mr. Turtle decides to play aggressive, and positioning very, very far back, allowing his frontliner to do his job. And that's just absorb a lot of skills with that big body. And of course, not going for the Mark of the Vanguard, which is a little bit curious. We've seen most Brackens go for that, sometimes even in the support role. But it's really worked out for Mr. Turtle this game, getting the additional farm that Watcher's Gift gives him, and then really relying on that Bracken passive to take less damage. Of course, he and everyone around him takes 5% less damage from all sources. Really, really underrated passive, I would say. When you think of best passives in the game, I don't think Bracken necessarily comes up all that often, but he certainly should.
And Predator's trying to be a bit of a bully in this duel lane, and he's actually going to lose the blue buff for it.
And he's lost a full wave here as well, though he is trying to find the kill in response. Overpowered, uses his ultimate along with Minos, but Predators is still willing to fight. Waldrum's here, he throws a shield onto Minos. Mr. Turtle as well. 50-meter Fly going to be coming up soon enough, trying to make sure that that speed buff may not go the way of CAZ, but CAZ able to secure it without much of a problem. Predators there, is that the wrong play in that scenario, Taco? Because he loses a full wave in the solo lane and doesn't get the buff. But when you're ahead, I mean, can you kind of think of it as waves you're allowed to miss in that scenario?
I would never want to miss a wave at these early stage points in the game. Waves are far more important than the buffs at this point in time, especially if you're already ahead. Why risk losing your lead to try and steal away an unguaranteed buff, especially considering that the jungler was there and available to help his solo laner secure it?
Well, Jaron poking out Welsh Beast on the left-hand side, but doesn't have enough mana to play aggressive in that scenario. I think Jaron's healthy, he may be able to use that ultimate. Osric's using his, gonna catch Jaron backing and sleep it a little bit. There's the double tap, the wall, not enough mana to use the rolling assault, and Osric picks up an easy kill on the Hunter.
In all honesty, that's one of those circumstances where Jerome probably recognized and knew that your ultimate was coming, but at that point in time, you just have to commit to the back and hope to God that your lazy back pays off and you're able to get out in time and back to base. It was just in that particular situation, Jerome couldn't find the back, and because of it, when you're already around that far up the lane, no mana, there's really no escape.
And I love the decision to hold the beads there in that scenario, because like you mentioned, even if he uses them, no mana to roll, so you're not going to be able to get away, and it's going to be difficult for you to make sure that you don't fall in that scenario, even with that purification beads. Gold Fury, meanwhile, that's gone. Goes the way of TMNT for life. We were checking on the right-hand side, didn't even see it happening on the left, but it does go the way of TMNT again, using their zone control. We saw the Zeus ultimate, the Bracken ultimate, and Welsh Beast use his as well. Gold Fury goes the way of TMNT, pushing that gold lead to right underneath 3,000 gold, or right around the 10-minute mark.
Right as the Thor was ulting onto Drone in that duel lane, I believe is when TMNT were trying to secure that Gold Fury, because with the Hunter taken off the map, CAZ are already down a player. It's difficult to try and contest, and at that point in time, it's just a free objective.
Lots of ultimates burned, but at the 10-minute mark, probably not that big of a deal. TMNT can just play passive and wait for the respawns, but passive's not in their name as Alexum caught out a little bit in the jungle. Nice shield from Waldrum, but it's not going to be enough. Predators over the top with the Eagles rally, secures the mid laner. 50-meter Fly gonna get dove here by Minos, but the great chain lightning into the lightning storm. 50-meter Fly pulls the detonate, and Osric and he combine for 2 kills onto the solo and support. TMNT 8-0 right now over CAZ.
Zeus Bracken, Zeus Bracken. That's what's going to happen every single time. Beautiful execution by Mr. Turtle there as well, and the synergy that he had with 50-meter Fly. 50-meter actually held the detonate there on the Poseidon, which really permitted him to get as much damage as possible off for Mr. Turtle to just finish off the kill. And he cleansed. Mr. Turtle took away that entire Geb shield health and protection. It was almost like it never even happened because of how much damage this Bracken is outputting right now.
Just look at the ward coverage right now for TMNT. They're really putting their lead to use. Maybe not in the item department, but certainly in the vision. We see one ward on that right-hand side that just got placed down by CAZ, and that vision advantage really allowed TMNT to wrap around that little island there around the right side mid-harpies and make that fight happen. Minos, you got 4 here, buddy, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. 50-meter fly, doesn't even step up, nor look at the explosion because he's a cool guy. Another kill goes the way of the mid laner. 5-0-3 already. Tier 1 tower on the right side falls. CAZ, they don't want any part of that on the right-hand side. In fact, they're going to stay on the left, try and siege down the enemy Tier 1 in the dual lane. Only Welsh Beast here to try and defend. He's doing a good job of it for now. There's the Cataclysm and the Kraken, but it's jumped over. And Welsh Beast trying to make it happen. He turns it around. 1v3 finds 2. Welsh Beast, are you kidding me?
What just happened?
That was sick. That was insane. That was preposterous.
The beats,
I'm running out of adjectives.
The jump, the impale, he just made CAZ look completely silly there. It doesn't even matter that Jerome got that T1.
No.
At this point in time, if I am CAZ, I'm just like, dude, what just happened? The
cojones on that man to jump in 1v3 and then push Alexum back into tower with the impale. That's one of those scenarios where in comms you're like, all right, let's just kill him. It's 1v3, and then it's just silence. They probably haven't said a word yet. It's probably still quiet in those comms right now.
That's just one of those circumstances where you just want to act like it never happened.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, nobody knows. We're not going to talk about it. Osric's just messing around with Predators at this point in time because, I mean, if I'm TMNT and my Hunter's doing that and Zeus and Kabrakan are doing all of this, you're chilling pretty hard right now. I don't think that they know that this map is theirs right now.
Mr. Turtle still trying to find something in the mid lane, gonna lock Alexum in, but the Kraken is there to zone away 50-meter fly. Osric goes over the top, able to find the dunk down, but the defensive ultimate 50-meter fly really hurts the damage output underneath that tier 1 tower. Looks like CAZ gonna be able to escape with their life, as will Osric, though just barely. Try to take the 3v3 underneath the tower, but now we see CAZ starting to get a little bit more tanky. Meanwhile, Welsh Beast continues to just dominate, able to find the solo kill up against Jaron. Easy peasy, as the kids say.
This guy's pretty nuts, and the fact that so much has been done on the side of Welsh Beast. I mean, this whole game we've been focusing on the Zeus Kabrakan and everything that they've been synergizing and completing together, but the Honor plays, that's exactly what you need coming out of your... That's why you pick on her. That's why you rush Transcendence and the Fatalis and get the Power Spike online. He is completely dominating this duo lane. And
the chins picked up here for Jaron pretty early on. We usually don't see this item until a little bit later. Do you agree with this pickup in this scenario, or would you rather see him wait, maybe pick up an Executioner instead?
Opting for the chins is probably the better decision here. You want something that's going to have chunk potential onto the Kabrakan once these team fight engagements start happening. But at this point in time, I'm just not sure how useful that's going to be, considering how much he's struggling. Osric
really deep right now, forced up into the ultimate just to make sure he can get out of danger. Though he lands underneath the tier 1 tower, gonna take a tower shot. That was inexplicable. That's the only... There's just no reason to land on the tier 1 tower, except to distract the enemy team potentially from this Gold Fury. Lightning Storm's down. The Detonate gonna secure it for TMNT. A 3-man Kraken there for Alexum, but it just doesn't do any damage. He's only level 11. He's using the Kraken up against a level 16 on her. Just no real damage there coming out of the mid laner. Gold Fury falls in favor of TMNT for Lyfe. CAZ did pick up their second kill of the game, but it's still right around 8,000 gold in the lead for the blue squad. Alexum gets rallied on by Predators. There's a Desert Fury through everyone as well, but it's just not enough to pick him up. In fact, Jaron's able to find the enemy solo laner. Mr. Turtle is able to pick up Alexum finally after all that, but when you're down this much gold, a 1-for-1's not that bad.
CAZ, though, you could tell that they wanted to group up and look for the potential siege onto that T1 tower in the mid lane, but just not enough damage yet on their composition to be able to punish TMNT for being out of position or playing so loosely aggressive. And Jerome's really the only one impacting these team fights any sort of way because of the fact that he has that chins online, like I was saying earlier. The chins alongside of the Ickful is a strong pickup because there's really not much point rushing the Aussie at that point in time, or a lifesteal item, so to say, or even the Executioner, just because the composition of TMNT is still fairly tanky. You've got the Thor. He hasn't built any defensive items yet, but at the same time, that's always a possibility. And then you have to worry about the Bologna. And Bologna with the disarm, and then on top of that, he's got the Frostbound for the health. He has the Nemean Lion. He's already incredibly tanky. And when you throw a Cabrakan into the mix, that just becomes incredibly difficult to deal with as a hunter.
Though, and you look at Mr. Turtle's build, no physical defense outside of that Mark of the Vanguard, so could definitely shred through that innate health that he has, as well as the health that he got for picking up the Wing Blade, so could really look to punish Mr. Turtle, who's gone for a pretty selfish, pretty offensive build. Though when you're this far ahead, and you've had such a great early game as you've had on this Cabrakan, could certainly understand the reasoning behind Mr. Turtle going for a build of this style.
And Osric just letting the Chalk have his way with him, taking half of his HP. At the same time, I'm sure he was looking to back
and
from
with the
start
portal
of
up
that.
as well,
Yeah.
it's, it's not too big of a deal. Grouping here for TMNT in the mid lane. Welsh Beast showing CAZ exactly what he thinks about him, and I don't blame him after that 1v3 play we saw him make earlier on. Tier 1 tower falls, no problem whatsoever. TMNT pushing that lead even higher now, right around 8,000 gold still. In fact, it's actually closer to 9,000 gold at this stage in the game. There's the lock-in, finds 2 for Turtle. No Lightning Storm quite yet, because 50 Fly isn't close enough. Alexum isolated out, is the word I was looking for there, by Predators, deep into his jungle. Predators able to get him very low and force him to use the Aegis. Only 2 ultimates left up for TMNT after that little skirmish. But they're still healthy enough, and they still just have enough base damage to really make CAZ worry about this siege happening right now. Osric finds multiple with that Anvil of Dawn underneath the tier 2 tower. Minos hits 4 out of 5 with that Storm Call, but it's just not enough damage, and another meditation comes through. CAZ just doesn't have enough damage to punch through how tanky everyone is right now for TMNT.
And the Chain Lightning doing tons of damage into that back line. It's looking like a T2 for the side of TMNT.
Well, Welsh Beast trying to get it, though isn't doing a whole lot of damage. Looks like about 87 in auto, but there's the pillar, just trying to get everyone out of danger, and he will do exactly that. TMNT don't lose anybody underneath that tier 2, and Welsh Beast finds it. And this is just what you expect out of Welsh Beast. Sticks around too long. Man, I'm telling you what, if I'm going up against TMNT later this season, I am intentionally feeding Welsh Beast early. Like, I'm just throwing away 2 kills in the early game, and then I'm just waiting for him to play horribly in the late game because he's too busy taunting me.
He's certainly feeling himself right now. I can't blame the guy, considering that play that we saw earlier, and then on top of that, he picked up a solo kill on Verone immediately after, which certainly didn't help with the bit of an ego swing that he's had for him this game.
The tactical feed, get him comfortable, get him taunting, pressing that right D-pad XY as we do on the console. That's how you taunt, if you weren't aware.
I'm so proud you remember.
Of course I remember. What do you think I did during my pro career? Only taunted people. Jeron gonna have to deal with Predators on this left-hand side. Look how much damage Predators is doing. There's the Frostbound Hammer as well. Jeron does have the Aegis, and there it is. The knockup isn't going to be there, though, from Overpowered, and Predators still trying to find the kill. Good ultimate from Jeron. Predators is all alone right now. Still trying to find the kill. Great Wind Siphon, though, from Overpowered. Make sure that Predators can't just use the Scourge. Oh, by the way, this was all a distraction. The rest of TMNT, they were at the Fire Giant, and they got it. Overpowered trying to secure the kill Predators was trying to kill Overpowered there. It was the other way around, and he's still going in. The Geb Shield, not enough. Osric's here. There goes Alexum. Predators finally falls, but Osric's going to be able to pick up Overpowered, I think. No, able to get away, and he may fall as well. In fact, he will to the tower shot. Jeron, sloppy play all over the place here from both teams, but it doesn't matter if you're sloppy when you're up about 10,000 gold and had the Fire Giant, because your team's going to be able to clean it up, no problem. There it is, 15-5, TMNT, 20 minutes in, about to go a little bit higher. Tier 2 tower falls, that's the last tower available on the map. TMNT just controlling CAZ Esports right now.
Predators with the casual 1v4.
Yeah, just one of those things that you do. What do you do? Predators, what are you doing right now? Oh, just killing 2 people in a 2v4.
The more questionable aspect of that entire engagement to me is CAZ is looking at Predators, Jerome just walking away, asking his team, somebody please help me.
Yep.
And the entire time, CAZ is just not even realizing, you know, we're all responding to our teammate in danger, but where is TMNT's response? Nobody had the mentality or idea to think, you know, that might be an FG going. I mean, sure, they can't really contest it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Can they, even if CAZ knows, can they really fight into that? I mean, you've got the Zeus. I mean, Alexum Krakens have done nothing this game. It really, no real damage out of the mid laner. Same can be said for the jungler, for overpowered. In fact, below Alexum in terms of damage. Mr. Turtle surprisingly low on that damage chart, but has really just been there to CC the enemy team and allow characters like Predators and 50-meter Fly to put out that damage for TMNT.
I still would have liked to see at least one, maybe two members at least look at that side of the map and just clarify, are they on FG? Yes, they're on FG, and I mean, at least at that point in time, while a steal is unlikely, when you're this far behind already, I don't think it'd really hurt CAZ to just look for that steal, because it would be the
college try.
It's really the only way that they would have had some kind of swing in their favor to look for a comeback potential. But now with FG Online, the side of TMNT, sure, they lost 2 members with it, but does it really matter?
How much do you want to bet that Mr. Turtle named his team? Just kind of occurred to me. His name is Mr. Turtle, TMNT for life. You got to assume it was him. Osric going to take a decent amount of damage as he runs away from all of CAZ Esports, basically, but with that Fire Giant regen, not going to be too worried about it. Actually, Osric doesn't have it. He was dead whenever, or he died right afterwards after that dive onto the tier 2, so he's going to hold that damage, but again, not too worried about it at this stage. Middle Phoenix, the focus here for TMNT for life. They don't have any of the waves pushed up on the duo or solo side, though, which is a good advantage for CAZ, because even if they lose this initial engagement underneath this middle Phoenix, could go well on the left-hand side. There's the jump in from Predators and Mr. Turtle. Frenzy was popped as well. No one falling quite yet until 50-meter Fly and Osric combine to find 3 kills. Welsh picks up his Hunter opposition as well. Minos, see you later, buddy. 4 dead. TMNT has ran this game since the very beginning. We're 23 minutes in, and finally, the mercy killing is about to happen. Titan is going to respond on the Predators in courtesy for CAZ Esports, but it doesn't matter. 23 minutes, 20-5, TMNT for life with a clean victory that had no shortage of flashy plays.
Both games just TMNT